Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
It's our history unit. I love history.
Me too.
It's kind of one of my favorite things. Besides politics, I love history. So we're studying about a period of time back in Europe. We're studying actually a dynasty, a family that ruled in England for a while. Their last name was Tudor. And if you've been on Netflix, you've probably noticed there's a program called The Tudors. It's okay. It's not really accurate historically, just to warn you.
Okay.
And of course, they didn't cast, a big fat old man to play Henry VIII. They cast kind of a sexy young guy who doesn't seem very king-like in his behavior. When I was growing up, I know that Masterpiece Theater, that was a channel we had in America. It's still on in America. And they would broadcast classical literature, books based on, or shows based on books and stuff. Well, they actually had a series about the Tudors and about Henry VIII and his wives, his 6 wives. And I remember watching it with my mom. I was fascinated because there were so many horrible things that happened during this time. If you were king, you could kill people. You could decide they were guilty for nothing. You could make up stuff because a king was it.
It's good to be king.
It was good to be king. You could do anything you wanted. And we're going to talk about how the Tudors actually changed England during their reign. But first, guys, we're going to read through today's lesson and then we'll be back. The changes that took place during the Tudor period left a lasting impact on English culture. The greatest example is probably Henry VIII's first divorce, as this brought him into direct conflict with the Pope and the Catholic Church. Rather than submitting to the Church's ban on remarriage, Henry ordered his religious scholars to come up with a new way of doing things. This resulted in the Reformation. When England moved away from the Catholic Church and began following the Protestant doctrine that had emerged in Europe under Martin Luther, Henry became the head of the newly formed Anglican Church. It took several more civil wars during the Stuart dynasty for the Anglican Church to become dominant. Today, it's still the main Christian domination in the UK. The defeat of the Spanish Armada by Elizabeth's navy in 1588 was also a turning point. It made England feared at sea as one of the world's leading naval powers. A leading admiral, Sir Francis Drake, had already become the first captain to sail all the way around the world. 20 years later, Sir Walter Raleigh, a naval advisor during the war with the Spanish, founded the colony of Virginia in the New World. England's superior ships and sailors traveled all over the globe, claiming more lands for what would eventually become the British Empire. Thanks to these historic events and famous figures, the Tudor period continues to fascinate people. Movies like Elizabeth and TV shows such as The Tudors explore the lives of the rulers, while the critically acclaimed novel Wolf Hall looks at the key players in the Reformation. With both its appeal to fans of popular culture and lasting influence on English society, the Tudor name will never be erased from the history books.
Okay, everybody, it's time for us to discuss the contents of today's lesson. It's the second day of our lesson about the Tudors, and we're trying to tell you how the Tudors changed England. So we talked about the history of Henry VII and Henry VIII and his various wives. And so we're up to the present here. Let's talk about some of the changes that occurred in England and in the world as a result of the Tudor dynasty. So here in the first paragraph it says, the changes that took place during the Tudor period left a lasting impact on English culture. and I guess by extension, it left a lasting impact on the world as well. So, of course, we got changes that happened during the Tudor period. And, of course, English culture has been influenced up to the present day because of the Tudors. Without the Tudors, England and the United States and the English world and English classrooms in the world would not be the same. So here it says the greatest example is probably Henry VIII's first divorce, as this brought him into direct conflict with the Pope and the Catholic Church. If you've ever known anybody Catholic, you know that they're not supposed to get divorced if they're Catholic. Even if the marriage is a failure, they're still supposed to stay together. They may actually separate and live in different parts of the country, but they're still actually married. According to the Catholic Church, it's very difficult to get an annulment. At least that's the experience of some of my friends here. But in any case here, the thing that most people think about is his first divorce, because that was a conflict with Henry VIII and the Pope, who is that guy with that big hat in the Vatican City, who's the head of the Catholic Church. This was a big conflict between the Catholics and the English king.
Okay, in the next phrase it says, rather than or instead of, you could also say that. Instead of submitting to the church's ban on remarriage, Henry ordered his religious scholars to come up with a new way of doing things. If you don't like the law, then ask the smart people that surround you to come up with a reason why you don't have to obey it. That's what he was doing. So if you ban something, you say it's no longer permissible or someone's no longer able to do it, say it, see it, whatever. I know in the last, I would say 20 years, most countries are banning cigarettes in restaurants and bars and things like that. It's getting harder and harder for people who smoke to find a place where they can smoke legally. Besides, if they're just out there in the wilderness or maybe in their own apartments. So that's a ban. You can use ban as a noun or a verb, guys. It functions as both. And rather than or instead of submitting or, saying you would follow this, Henry ordered his religious scholars. A scholar is someone who has had a lot of education. Typically, it's education, postgraduate degrees, things like that. So you're getting your master's degree or a doctorate. You're a scholar if you study a particular field for a long time and learn a lot. He wanted his religious scholars who worked with him to come up with or think up or devise. That's another word we could use. Devise is D-E-V-I-S-E, a verb. Devise a new way of doing something, how he could get out of this marriage with Catherine.
Indeed, yes. Come up with a way to change this silly law. I want to divorce my first wife. I don't want to stay married to her. I want to marry somebody else. So yeah, you guys think of a way to change this law. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. So this resulted in the Reformation, when England moved away from the Catholic Church and began following the Protestant doctrine that had emerged in Europe under Martin Luther. So that happened in Europe there. You've got the Protestant Church and the Catholic Church. Here in Taiwan, of course, the difference is usually between Tianzhujiao and Jidujiao. The Catholic Church was in Italy there, of course, and they were in charge in Europe and stuff like that. And then you had this big revolution, the Protestants, which include who? The Baptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, etc. Those are all new churches that came as a result of the Reformation. Reform is the verb there, just means a change in something, and Reformation is the noun here. So that's a period of history, and we've got this doctrine, which is a series of ideas in a particular religion. It could be part of a philosophy as well. Just a bunch of beliefs that people believe in, and then the church or this school of thought teaches these ideas, and that becomes the doctrine. The doctrines of Taoism, for example.
Now, what happened was Henry VIII, became the head of the newly formed Anglican Church. It's a great solution if you want to come up with your own way of living and behaviors that are okay. You just start your own church and you're the head of it. You can tell people how to live. So Anglican Church is also known as the Church of England. And even today, Queen Elizabeth is the head of the Church of England. So that hasn't changed. I don't think she gets involved with much having to do with church doctrine, but what we would call her is a token head, someone who has that position, but the position doesn't have any power. A token leader, a token head. Token is T-O-K-E-N. So it took several more civil wars during the Stuart dynasty. The Stuart dynasty followed the Tudor dynasty. We're focusing right now, though, on the Tudor family only. It took a lot more battles, a lot more war before the Anglican Church became the dominant one in the country. So it took a while, to lessen the Catholic Church's power in England so that the Anglican Church or the Church of England had more power. But today, it's the main Christian denomination in the UK. As Tom said, we've got lots of different types of Christian churches. We refer to those different types as denominations. And today, the Anglican Church is the most powerful one. It's the dominant one. So in essence, you could say Henry VIII won. He won this big battle against the Catholic Church.
Right. In the United States, there's not really any dominant religion. You've got Catholics and Protestants in roughly equal numbers. But if you go to Latin America, the Catholic Church tends to be dominant there. And it wasn't until the Stuart dynasty, as we just said, that the Anglican Church, or the C of E, the Church of England, became dominant in England. And today, it's still the main Christian denomination in the UK. And
well, I would say, Tom, even in Italy and France, the Catholic Church is still dominant.
True, and also I believe Quebec, the Catholics are dominant there as well. But in any case, here you've got different branches of the Christian religion, denominations of the Christian Church. I mentioned some examples there: the Methodists, the Catholics, the Baptists, the Presbyterians,
the Mormons, yeah,
the Mormons, yeah,
all of them.
And so, of course, the C of E, or the Church of England, the Anglican Church, is still the dominant church in England today, although a lot of English people are non-religious, actually, but that's another subject. But we're going to, we're going to say this is the midway point in our lesson for today, so let's take a break now, but stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Jenny. 今天我要看的是历史哦，继续来谈大英帝国的崛起。这个王朝叫都铎王朝 ，The Tudors。好，我们提到了都铎王朝的几位国王跟女王，而我们现在又要看看他们在历史上到底有什么样的影响力，而中间是不是有令人值得注意的重要的历史。我们来看看第一段呢，就说到了都铎时期，它其实带来很大的影响。说到了亨利八世，他建立了完全跟不同于以往的传统，因为他跟他的太太离婚了，而这跟天主教是完全相反的理念，因为天主教是不许离婚的，而他却坚持要离婚，所以当然就有了冲突。而亨利八世他的选择也很有趣，他不但不遵循，而且他还下令学者请他们想办法。好，接下来提到说他的做法当然违反了当时的天主教的这种理念，那可是他还是一意孤行，这也就导致了所谓宗教改革，我们说是 The Reformation。 那提到宗教改革，在历史课本上还是会聊这一段，包括当时其实在欧洲，马丁路德他就已经开始进行了陆陆续续的这些改革，而成了所谓的基督教的新教，而这些新教的定义就被亨利八世拿来作为他要在英国成立他自己的教派的这个范本。而他所成立的这个教派呢，就是我们说的圣公会，而英国国王理所当然的就成为这个圣公会的领袖了。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. Let's talk more about the Tudor dynasty. And, of course, we just got done talking about the Reformation, all because Henry VIII wanted to divorce his first wife and marry a second wife. So let's talk now about some of his children here. Of course, his children took over after he passed away. The defeat of the Spanish Armada by Elizabeth's navy in 1588 was also a turning point. I remember learning about that, I think, when I was in 6th grade. That was a major turning point in European history here. The Spanish Armada was really strong at the time. They had these huge ships, these huge, proud ships manned by Spaniards. And, of course, the British defeated them in 1588 with smaller ships, I understand, because the smaller ships were more maneuverable and can shoot at the big boats, and they were sitting ducks in the water. They made fools of the Spaniards, and then England became the major world power. It made England feared at sea as one of the world's leading naval powers. Naval here just means having to do with the Navy or the military force that's on the oceans.
Tom used a phrase, you probably don't know what it means, so I'll explain it a little bit. If you're a sitting duck, it means you're in a position where you're defenseless. And anybody who wants to attack you can, and you're probably going to end up hurt or dead. Yeah, he's a sitting duck. So you're somebody who's in a really defenseless position. Yeah, if you have a better group of ships, you might not be as big as the other ships, but you can maneuver more quickly. You know, you probably have an advantage. Bigger and stronger doesn't necessarily mean best. Okay, guys, we're going to continue moving on here. I know Tom talked about naval powers, anything to do with the Navy. That's your adjective you want to use, naval. Maybe you have a boyfriend who's in the Navy here in Taiwan. Maybe he's a naval commander, or a naval soldier. So a leading admiral, an admiral is a position in the Navy only. There can't be an admiral in the Army, I believe. I think it's only in the Navy.
Yeah, the Army has generals and colonels and stuff. In the Navy, they've got the admiral and captains and commanders and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, Sir Francis Drake, that's a big famous name if you've studied any English history. He had already become the first captain to sail all the way around the world. Remember, back then, that was a big deal. Yeah, I bet he felt pretty proud of himself for doing that. 20 years later, there was another man, Sir Walter Raleigh. He was a naval advisor. If you're an advisor, you're someone who gives advice to somebody about something that you're pretty much an expert in. You're an advisor. He became a naval advisor during the war with the Spanish. He founded the colony of Virginia. And that's part of the current United States of America. And they called it, back then at least, they called the American continent the New World. Because when they first discovered it, the only people who were living there were the indigenous people or the American Indians.
Right, so that's a little bit of history there about the Tudor dynasty there and how they kind of branched out into the New World, especially with the North American colonies there. And England's superior ships and sailors traveled all over the globe, claiming more lands for what would eventually become the British Empire. So, of course, England had a very strong navy at the time. They had superior ships. Superior just means better than anybody else. And they traveled all over the world. They established colonies in, of course, the Americas, in India, and Singapore and Malaysia, and, of course, Hong Kong, Australia, etc. They were all part of the British Empire at one point. I think they also took over Kenya and perhaps other parts of Africa as well. So they
Tom. There's a famous saying that a lot of people probably have heard, and that is at this point in time and a little later when England continued to be the most powerful country or nation in the world, they used to say the sun never sets on the British Empire. So somewhere around the world, it was daylight. They had control of so many different parts of the world at that point.
Indeed. That's not the case anymore.
No.
But still, the British are still pretty influential. So let's move on now to the final paragraph here. It says, thanks to these historic events and famous figures. The Tudor period continues to fascinate people. As you said, of course, you were watching Masterpiece Theater, which was all about the Tudors. That was fascinating. I'm sure people here in Taiwan are probably interested as well. Gee, how did England become so powerful to humiliate the Chinese by taking over Hong Kong and parts of Shanghai and stuff like that? That was unprecedented. So indeed, people are wondering, how did those British people with their bad teeth take over the world like that? It's hard to believe. It's unbelievable.
Although you can probably be sure that whatever you see in a movie or on TV isn't necessarily always accurate. You know, it has to be dramatic. So they add things and make people look more beautiful than they really are. But yeah, it's kind of fun to learn some history through things you enjoy, like historical novels or movies like Elizabeth. I don't think Elizabeth is on Netflix currently, but it was when I first started using Netflix. That was a good movie. And then the TV shows like The Tudors. I actually think the one that was made in the 70s, the 1970s, is much better than the current one. But, you know, that's what I think.
Okay.
These explore the lives of the rulers, while the critically acclaimed novel Wolf Hall, which I might add, was turned into a TV series. I saw that too. That's great. It has Claire Foy in it as Anne Boleyn. Claire Foy, of course, was the current star of The Crown for 2 seasons. Wolf Hall is really good too. It's a novel, so if you can't get your hands on the TV series, although I think you can buy it on the internet now, just get the novel and do some reading there. That one focuses more on the key players in the Reformation, how they changed over from only being Catholic in England to being members of this new Anglican church. That's the Reformation. There were a lot of battles between people who supported the Catholic Church and people who supported King Henry VIII and his desire to change and have their own church, the Church of England.
Indeed. So, of course, don't just take our word for it. You can check out this novel. It's critically acclaimed. That means the critics like it.
Yeah.
It's got good reviews on Amazon.com or whatever. You might be able to download it somewhere and read it on your device. But in any case, with both its appeal to fans of popular culture and lasting influence on English society, the Tudor name will never be erased from the history books. So it's got appeal to fans of popular culture. Appeal here just means it has an attraction for people. They hear about this thing. They want to learn more about it. They want to watch the movies or read the books or whatever. So it's got modern appeal to fans. Appealing is the adjective form. Wow, that movie is really appealing. I want to go watch that. It sounds very attractive. So the Tudors are appealing to fans of popular culture, and also the Tudors had a lasting influence on English society and even modern society.
Yeah, kind of fun. You learn a lot by studying history. It seems like more and more today, newer generations aren't looking at history as much as they should be.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our explanation for today about the Tudors here. The Tudors are going to be around for quite some time, so you heard it from us on our program. And hey, maybe you could do some more reading yourself about the Tudors. I think I will. It sounds like a very fascinating subject that I don't really know enough about. So thank you for listening. And right now we're going to take a time out and listen to our Chinese teacher.
OK， 我们继续来看一下，说历史啊，亨利八世的部分，大概这边是跟宗教改革有关，而后面呢，伊丽莎白记得吗？她就是这一位女王，让她的军队打败了西班牙舰队，而这在历史上也是另外一个转捩点。我们注意到这边有一个句型要留意一下，提到她打败了西班牙舰队 ，It made England feared at sea。为什么用 feared fear 加了 ed， 这里当然还是过去分词。我们知道 made 也是一个实义动词，而实义动词后面加受词，受词接下来的这是一个补语的位置，我们就要考虑它是受词补语哦，所以它要修饰这个受词跟这个动作的关系是主动还被动，而这边说的就是让英国呢受到敬畏，所以是让英国被人家害怕，人家会怕英国，因此这里是被动的 PP。 好，那我们继续来看，大家也可能都听过了这位华特雷利爵士，他呢就在 New World， 指的是美国。在美国的维吉尼亚州呢，他成立了一个殖民地，英国的这些船只啦、选手啦，就遍及全球，因为他们在全世界各地都开发了他们的殖民地。当然，这个殖民地包括了美国。好，我们来看看这边句型上面，从 claiming 这个字开始看起，说到他们的水手船只遍航全世界，而且呢，夺下很多的土地。这个 claiming 加了 ing， 当然就表示说它是一个分词，而这个分词后面提到他夺了很多的土地，是为谁夺得呢？这个当然是指大英帝国，不过在当时还不叫大英帝国，所以后面写的 What would eventually become the British Empire， 也就是在这一番的土地争取之后呢，都是属于大英帝国的领土了，这也就是我们今天历史上的 British Empire。 好了，我们来看最后这边说到了这些种种的历史事件、历史人物，而都铎时期当然是非常精彩的，这也就是为什么在电影里面、在电视剧里面都有这样子的题材。好，那接下来还有一个可能大家不熟的，就是其中有一个作品叫做 Wolf Hall， 我们中文翻成狼厅，这是一本小说，而这本小说它备受好评。这边注意到 the critically acclaimed， 我们知道 acclaimed 当然就表示有好评的，可是 critically 当然是指说就大家的评论里面，这是一部非常不错的作品。好喽，我们今天的讲解就到这边，我们下一次再谈。
That brings us to the end of our lesson for today, all about the tutors. We hope you learned something. I'm sure you learned something, and I did too. It was quite fascinating. So please join us again next time for another interesting edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.